I'm not trying to rip you off, Mary. No matter what Janelle says about me ripping you off.
A deep, unsettling silence fell over the courtroom as the doors swung open. Kody Brown, once the unshakable patriarch of a sprawling polygamous family and self-proclaimed king of Coyote Pass, stepped into the room wearing his signature confidence-like armor. But even that swagger couldn't hide the sweat beading at his temples. The gallery, packed with journalists, ex-wives, and restless onlookers, held its breath. Seated just a few feet away, Christine adjusted her blouse, her eyes sharp and unreadable. Janelle avoided looking at him altogether. Robyn clutched her designer handbag like it was a lifeline, her lips pressed into a pale line. The bailiff called the room to order. The judge entered, heavy with the weight of months, if not years, of betrayal, deception, and silent suffering finally clawing its way into public record. Cody stood, hands clasped behind his back, chin raised, but the moment his legal counsel whispered something into his ear, everything changed. The color drained from his face, and with that single sentence, whispered like a warning shot, the courtroom tipped into chaos. "You're not walking out of here today, Mr. Brown." The murmurs turned into gasps. Christine's expression didn't change. Janelle looked away. And Robyn gripped the bench in front of her like the world had started to spin beneath her stilettos. The judge didn't wait for the theatrics to end. "This court has reviewed the evidence presented in discovery and finds sufficient cause to move forward with criminal contempt proceedings." Then the hammer fell. "Mr. Kody Brown, you are hereby remanded into custody, effective immediately." The screams didn't start until the handcuffs came out. One of them wasn't just audible, it was guttural. It came from Robyn. She stood up suddenly, nearly stumbling into the aisle, her voice breaking into a ragged cry. "No, Your Honor, please, he didn't mean to. He's not a criminal." But the courtroom was no longer hers to control. Cody's eyes darted wildly, from his daughters in the back row to the cold, unflinching face of the judge. The patriarch, the man who once controlled every decision in 4 households, had just lost control of his own fate. And as the bailiff stepped behind him, reaching for the steel bracelets that would change everything, Cody muttered only 4 words to his attorney. "This can't be happening." But it was, and outside, the media vans were already rolling. What caused the judge to turn so suddenly on Cody, and what explosive document had been leaked just hours before the trial began, one that not even Cody's attorneys saw coming? It hadn't been part of the original case file. The defense team was blindsided. Just hours before court was in session, an anonymous envelope had arrived at the courthouse, unmarked, unsealed, and almost discarded by a clerk until they saw the name Kody Brown. Inside was a printout of financial transfers. Untraceable, Cody thought they were. Hidden, buried under layers of LLCs, shared assets, and shell companies, he assumed so. But what the envelope revealed, clear as day, was a direct $212,000 transfer from a family trust account marked for Coyote Pass development into a private investment property in Flagstaff, titled under a name Cody never thought would resurface. And the B, it wasn't Brown. It was Brandon, a silent partner Cody had once collaborated with before the show ever aired. Back when he was still building cabins instead of family brands. A man who vanished from the scene years ago after a failed deal. No one knew about him, except Cody. Christine recognized the name the moment it flashed on the evidence screen in court. Janelle flinched. Even Robyn's eyes widened, her mouth opening slightly in shock, realizing this wasn't just legal drama. It was betrayal at the deepest level. The prosecutor didn't hold back. "Your Honor, this is not just misappropriation, it's manipulation." Mr. Brown leveraged emotional and financial control over multiple women and children, only to funnel collective assets into secret holdings that served him and him alone. Cody sat frozen. He tried to speak, tried to interject, but the judge silenced him with a single raised hand. "Mr. Brown, you will remain silent unless called upon." The gallery was still. The family, once united on national television, was now divided by a spreadsheet of betrayal and greed. Christine looked over her shoulder at the crowd, where her daughter Mickelty sat next to Isabel. Both clutched each other's hands, wide-eyed, trembling. Robyn seemed to shrink. It was the first time she didn't leap to Cody's defense. The first time she didn't grab his arm, whispering strategies, spinning sympathy. Because even she knew this was real. The funds marked for the family's legacy, the dream of building on Coyote Pass, were diverted to what? Another woman, a luxury property, an escape plan. No one knew yet, but that wasn't the worst part, because attached to the anonymous packet was a post. It note, only 4 words were written on it. Check Robyn's name too. Is Robyn just a bystander, or was she in on it the entire time? And what truth about the Flagstaff property is about to explode in court? The courtroom lights buzzed overhead, flickering slightly, as if they too were stunned by the turn of events. The judge had barely recovered composure from the financial reveal when the prosecution dropped the next blow, one that made even the most hardened bailiff blink in disbelief. "Your Honor, we've complied with the anonymous lead. We ran a cross-check of all flagged transfers, and it appears that Mrs. Robyn Brown is listed as a co-beneficiary on the Flagstaff property." Gasps erupted. Audible, unfiltered, Robyn's face turned crimson. Her hand flew to her mouth, and she quickly glanced at Cody, whose entire body stiffened. He knew. The prosecution continued. "We are not alleging Mrs. Brown directly participated in the diversion of funds yet, but we do find it extremely suspicious that her name appears on property documentation tied to a covert company used to hide family assets." Christine leaned forward slightly, eyebrows arched, her lips curled in a silent "I knew" it smirk. For years, she had warned the others that Robyn wasn't just a passive participant, that she knew more than she let on. Janelle. She didn't smirk, she seethed. Her life savings had been funneled into that shared dream, Coyote Pass, a place where she imagined her boys building homes, growing roots. Now it seemed her dream was turned into a shell company's shadow deed, with Robyn listed as owner. In the gallery, a wave of murmurs rolled across the onlookers. Cameras were not allowed in court, but that didn't stop whispers from spreading like wildfire online. Robyn was in on it. They stole from the family. Coyote Pass was never real. It was a cover. The judge, visibly disturbed, leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, watching Cody closely. "Mr. Brown, can you explain why your wife's name appears on these hidden accounts?" Silence. Robyn tried to speak. "I didn't know about." The judge cut her off. "You'll have your turn." Cody finally stood, his voice breaking under the weight of pressure. "It's not what it looks like," he muttered. "It was protection. A just in case. I was planning for the future." That was the wrong answer. "Whose future?" the prosecutor asked, slamming the table with her palm. "Because it wasn't the family's." Wives Exposed, the channel that had been quietly covering the unraveling of the Brown family legacy, posted a midday special. The headline read, "Robyn's name was never supposed to be there." And yet, it was. Viewers were furious. Longtime fans of Sister Wives flooded the internet with demands for answers. The Coyote Pass land, once a symbol of polygamous unity, had become evidence in a high-profile case of fraud, mismanagement, and betrayal. And the one question no one dared to ask in court: who else knew about the plan? Because if Robyn was listed, Who else's name might be hiding in the shadows? The next reveal sends shockwaves through the courtroom, and it doesn't stop at Robyn. What other wife's name shows up in the financial records? As the gallery murmured, the prosecution paused, knowingly like a performer timing the drop before a symphony's crescendo. The judge tapped his pen. Continue. The prosecutor leaned forward and spoke with purpose. Your Honor, in addition to Mrs. Robyn Brown's name, we found another listed party on a separate transfer. A six-figure transaction routed from what we now know was a cloaked LLC registered in Nevada. Christine straightened. She hadn't breathed in a full 5 seconds. The account, previously believed to be dormant, routed $150,000 to an entity under the name of Christine M. Brown. Jaws dropped. A collective breath was held. Cody whipped his head toward her, rage and betrayal radiating through his clay. Robyn turned host, white. Her lip trembled. This wasn't a gossip article or tabloid whisper. This was court, and every camera in the gallery was rolling. As Robyn slowly approached the witness stand, Janelle leaned over to Mary and whispered, "This is it. This is what she's been hiding." Christine, meanwhile, remained still. She'd been dragged into this against her will, and now justice might finally speak on her behalf. Robyn sat, placed her hand on the Bible, and was sworn in. Her voice was quiet at first. "I didn't forge anything. I would never." But the prosecutor was ready with the next blow. "Then why is your home address on the delivery slip of this printer? Why is the signature file found on a desktop registered to your name?" Robyn broke. Tears welled up, her voice cracked. "It wasn't me. I didn't touch it. She stopped." Everyone leaned in. Robyn's jaw trembled. Then, she looked at Cody. "You told me it was just shuffling things around, that it was a placeholder. You said Christine would never know." A cry went up from the back row. Christine's eyes were wide, lips parted. She stared at Robyn as if seeing her for the first time. The judge sat back in his chair. "Mrs. Brown, are you saying you were told to forge the signature?" Cody looked like he'd been punched. He shook his head furiously. "That's not what I said." Robyn looked back at him. "You said you wanted to keep the land from being split. That if Christine's name was on it, it couldn't be touched." 1,000 gasps filled the courtroom. Cameras flashed. Reporters scrambled to file their headlines. Wives Exposed posted its own. "Robyn breaks down on the stand," says Cody, "manipulated her into falsifying documents." Cody was now visibly sweating. Fists clenched, Christine whispered, "You used me to protect yourself." And Robyn, she simply wept. But what was Cody really hiding behind that forged signature? In Part 6, the judge finally demands Cody take the stand. Where the real chaos begins, buckle in. The courtroom was still vibrating from Robyn's emotional testimony. When the judge made the call, no one expected this early. "Mr. Cody Brown, take the stand." Gasps swept through the gallery like wind through dry grass. Robyn buried her face in her hands. Janelle leaned forward with a look of steely resolve. Mary folded her arms, expression unreadable. Christine just whispered, "Finally." Cody stood. No swagger, no grin. Just stiff shoulders and eyes scanning for any ally. There were none. As he took his oath, the bailiff whispered something into the court reporter's ear. The judge nodded, and the cameras zoomed in. This wasn't just a deposition anymore. This was the reckoning. The prosecutor wasted no time. "Mr. Brown, did you instruct Robyn Brown to sign legal documents under Christine Brown's name?" Cody blinked. His jaw flexed. "I know. I told her we needed to manage the paperwork. I never said to forge anything. But you did say Christine would never know, correct?" Cody hesitated. "That's being taken out of context." "Let me add context. We have text messages." The screen behind the prosecutor lit up, Cody. Just handle it. Christine's name doesn't belong on Coyote anymore. It's not hers to claim. Cody, we'll fix it later. It's cleaner if she's left out of it. Silence then. Murmurs. Robyn looked physically ill. Christine's lips pressed into a tight line. The prosecutor stepped forward again. Let me be very clear. You orchestrated a document manipulation involving land valued at over $920,000, convinced your legal wife to sign it, and hoped no one would trace it. Did you or did you not do that, Mr. Brown? Cody swallowed hard. I thought I was protecting what was ours, the family's legacy. Whose legacy, the family's or yours? And that was it. The tension snapped. Cody exploded. He slammed his palm on the witness rail. You people don't get it. I carried this family. I built everything we had. I made the decisions because I had the vision. They followed me because I was the center. The crown? The prosecutor asked quietly. Cody froze. That word, crown, had once been his joke, his inside nickname for himself when asserting control. But now, in this courtroom, it sounded like the confession of a man clinging to a delusion. Yes, Cody whispered. The crown. Christine stood up. The judge motioned for order, but Christine had a right to speak. You weren't a crown. You were a tyrant, and this betrayal, proves it. Her voice didn't shake, but the courtroom did. Figuratively, the judge finally spoke. This court finds reason to continue with formal charges related to forgery, misrepresentation of assets, and conspiracy to defraud. Cody's face drained of all color. Mr. Brown, you are hereby remanded to county custody pending further proceedings. Gasps, screams. Robyn collapsed into her seat. Mary closed her eyes. Janelle exhaled for the first time in what felt like months. Wives Exposed posted within seconds, breaking. Kody Brown. This wasn't the composed, elegant Robyn the public had seen defending Cody in interviews or on family couches. This was a woman cornered by truth, by pressure, and by the fear of being swallowed by the very scandal she had once helped protect. It began with a subpoena, then quiet cooperation. Now it was official. Robyn Brown had turned state's witness. As reporters waited outside, the legal world trembled inside. The prosecution confirmed to the judge. Robyn had handed over documents, voice recordings, and financial correspondence detailing more than a decade of hidden dealings involving Cody and multiple family assets. She didn't speak publicly at first, but Wives Exposed obtained a leaked audio clip, sent anonymously from inside the court's chambers, and it was devastating. Cody told me to keep quiet. He said it was all spiritual accounting, that the money would come back to us. But when I realized the funds meant for our kids were being siphoned into private ventures under his name, I broke. I couldn't keep hiding it. We were supposed to build a future with that land. But instead, I watched him funnel over $80,000 into a security firm to monitor the other wives. I kept asking myself, who does that to their family? Gasps filled the courtroom. Christine's face went pale. Janelle shook her head, stunned. Mary's expression was unreadable, frozen in disbelief. Cody, seated behind his attorney, slammed a fist against the table so hard the bailiff flinched. But Robyn wasn't finished. He manipulated all of us, not just emotionally, but financially. He said the land would unite the family. Instead, it divided us, because he never intended to share it. He wanted to be the king, the crown. That phrase echoed again. The crown, the very nickname Cody had proudly coined for himself, became the nail in the coffin, used now as evidence of narcissistic control and manipulation. The courtroom gallery dead silent, but the internet, erupting. Robyn flips trended worldwide. Reddit threads exploded with forensic breakdowns of the voice recordings. TikTokers reenacted courtroom moments with captions like "Plot Twist of the Year" and "Sister Wives meets Game of Thrones." Wives Expose exclusive leak crossed 2 million views in under 8 hours. And all of it, every single second, was another crack in the myth of Kody Brown as the righteous patriarch. Just when the courtroom seemed to settle, the gallery braced for impact. In Part 9, a surprise witness takes the stand. Someone Cody never expected to see again. Their testimony, it might be the final blow. You won't believe who walks in next. The heavy oak doors of the courtroom creaked open again. Everyone turned. The attorneys stopped shuffling their papers. The audience collectively held its breath. Even Cody, who had sat brooding for the past 2 hours with his arms folded tightly across his chest, looked up, his eyes narrowing. Then he saw who it was, and his entire body tensed. Walking confidently through the doors, flanked by a pair of legal aides, was Kody Brown, Christine's son, and one of the few family members who had distanced himself from the chaos. Until now, there was no mistaking the message in his stride. This wasn't a broken son returning to relive trauma. This was a young man stepping into the fire, ready to speak his truth. As Kody took the stand, the courtroom leaned in. He adjusted the mic, looked straight ahead, and began, "My name is Kody Brown. I'm here because I saw things that changed the way I see my father forever." He didn't flinch. With calm precision, he recounted the early warnings, moments that once seemed small but now clicked into place. The secretive phone calls, the coded financial talk between Robyn and Cody, the sudden withdrawal of funds from the family savings under the guise of emergency restructuring, the empty promises that never made it to Coyote Pass. He told us we'd all have homes, that Coyote Pass would be a legacy, but one by one, we were cut out. My mom, she got lies. My siblings, they got excuses. And me, I got silence, until I started asking too many questions. That's when he told me to stay quiet, that it wasn't my place. Kody looked directly at his father. "Well, I found my place. It's here today." Cody's jaw clenched, his face red. He couldn't look at his son behind him. Robyn quietly wiped away a tear, not for Cody, but perhaps for what the truth was costing them all. Christine broke into a silent cry. Janelle closed her eyes and nodded, as if affirming everything they'd long suspected, but had never been able to prove. The judge didn't say a word, but she scribbled furiously in her notes. The audience, shaken. This wasn't just legal anymore. This was family, fractured, exposed, and laid bare for the world to witness. Wives Exposed streamed updates nonstop. Clips of Kody's testimony flooded every platform. On Instagram, the trending reel was titled, "The Son Who Dared to Speak." Even major outlets pick. The courtroom was silent, eerily so, as Cody stood in the center, shackled wrists trembling at his sides. The power he once held like a scepter had crumbled into dust. For years he stood as the head of a plural empire, parading himself as the leader of a family molded in control, not compassion. But today, the crown lay shattered beneath the gavel strike. In the gallery, Robyn's sobs had softened into silent shudders. Her eyeliner streaked down her cheeks as she clutched her bag like a lifeline. Her Cody, the man who always escaped the consequences, was finally being confronted by the very justice system he mocked, in whispers behind closed doors. The judge's words from earlier still echoed through the chamber. This court is not interested in self-proclaimed royalty. It is interested in truth, in fairness, and in protection from exploitation. The audience, made up of former fans, journalists, and silent critics, watched every move. Some held their breath, others whispered among themselves, There were no cheering voices, only the kind of silence that fills a room after something historic happens. You could feel the weight. Christine, though not physically present, had already sent a ripple through this entire chain of events with a single line in her deposition, one that exposed the financial funneling, the deception, and the manipulation. It was poetic. The wife who left without vengeance became the spark that ignited the entire downfall, and the most damning detail, the $820K lawsuit tied directly to land promises that were never fulfilled, dreams sold like snake oil, and a family legacy now tainted by greed and deceit. Cody, still stubborn, still proud, tried to glare at the judge, but it was hollow. The eyes that once commanded a household of wives now stared into a mirror of consequence. And this wasn't the end. Not by far. Retention booster. But just when the gavel seemed to close the chapter, a voice from the gallery shouted something that made Robyn snap. And in part 12, we reveal the moment that shattered her mask in front of the entire courtroom. Shall I continue with part 12? You said. 12, ChatGPT said. Part 12. The question that shattered Robyn narrator. It began as a whisper, a small, almost hesitant voice from the gallery, and then louder, clearer, like a blade slicing through the fog of judgment. Robyn, where's the money? The entire courtroom froze. The question, so simple, yet so devastating. It was not asked by an attorney, not the judge, not even the media. It came from someone unexpected, a voice from the back, Christine's oldest daughter, standing with a folded letter in hand. Her eyes locked onto Robyn's like a spotlight, and for the first time, Robyn snapped. Her calm demeanor vanished, replaced by a fury no one had witnessed in public before. Her chair screeched as she stood, eyes wide, hands trembling. "Don't you dare question me about that!" she screamed, her voice raw and cracked. Gasps erupted. Court officers instinctively moved toward her, unsure if the outburst warranted removal. Even the judge's gavel paused midair. Cody turned, startled. It was the first time he'd seen Robyn lose control in a courtroom setting. She who always cried softly, now screamed like someone cornered with nowhere left to hide. And it wasn't just the question. It was what that question represented, the money. The missing fund, the $80,000 scandal that started years ago. The court had been avoiding it, dancing around it, but now it was center stage. Christine's daughter, braver than most adults, had called it out under oath, with the same boldness her mother once used to leave it all behind. Robyn's breakdown wasn't just personal, it was a public unraveling. Her hands clutched the edge of the defendant's table as she whispered to herself, trying to compose. But the image was burned into every camera in the room. Robyn Brown, accused of hiding family funds, cracking under one brutal question. And the judge, he didn't even raise his gavel. He just turned slowly toward Robyn and said, "You will answer that under oath. Tomorrow." The room exploded in murmurs. Robyn's eyes widened again. She realized there would be no more avoiding it. Not tomorrow, not ever. Retention booster in part 13. A secret deposition from Janelle surfaces, one that could change the entire outcome of the case, and place Cody and Robyn on opposite sides for the first time ever. Shall I continue with part 13? You said 13, ChatGPT said part 13. The deposition Janelle never wanted to share, narrator. As night fell over the courthouse, the buzz surrounding Robyn's outburst refused to die. News outlets replayed the footage. Social media exploded with memes and hashtags. But behind the chaos, something darker was unfolding. Because that very evening, in a sealed back room across town, Janelle Brown sat down to deliver a sworn deposition, one she had delayed for months, citing health concerns and emotional strain. But now, she was ready. The tension in the deposition room was suffocating. Janelle sat upright, clutching a faded binder with trembling hands. Her eyes, though kind, were firm, like someone who had lost everything and had nothing left to fear. The court reporter nodded. The camera light blinked on. And then Janelle spoke. I didn't want to do this, but since the truth is being pulled out of everyone, it's only fair I do the same. She opened the binder inside. Copies of handwritten notes, emails, receipts, and one damning bank statement tied to a joint account under Cody and Robyn's names. This is where the missing money went. The attorney leaned forward. The page showed an $80,000 withdrawal labeled as private caregiver reimbursement. But the dates didn't line up with any official expense. In fact, it aligned exactly with the month Robyn's nanny. Yes, that nanny was supposedly terminated. Janelle's voice cracked but didn't break. Cody told me it was temporary. He said the money would return. But when I asked about it later, he said it was taken care of. And Robyn, she refused to speak to me after that. She paused. Then added the final blow. That was the moment I realized the family I helped build was being bankrupted for their comfort. The room fell silent. No one had ever heard Janelle speak like this. Not the judge, not the attorneys, and certainly not Cody or Robyn. She wasn't angry. She was resigned. And somehow, that made it even worse, because when someone like Janelle, the steady one, the calm one, the bridge between chaos and peace, decides to expose everything, it sends a signal that the glue holding everything together has finally dissolved. Retention booster. But just when the courtroom thinks they've seen the worst, Part 14 reveals a shocking voice message Cody left that could determine whether he walks free or walks away in handcuffs. Shall I continue with Part 14? You said 14. ChatGPT said, Part 14. The voicemail that turned the tide, narrator, just when the courtroom seemed to settle into the weight of Janelle's deposition. Something unexpected broke through the surface. A voicemail. Not just any voicemail, the voicemail. A digital recording, time-stamped and authenticated, was quietly slipped into evidence. It had been obtained by Christine's legal team weeks earlier, but withheld until the exact right moment. That moment had finally arrived. The judge adjusted her glasses, leaned slightly forward, and gave a nod. The audio system clicked on, and then Cody's voice filled the room. You don't get it, Robyn. I moved that money for us for protection. These other women, they wouldn't understand. They've always tried to control everything. I won't let them ruin what we built. Let them scream. Let them run to the judge. I've got this covered. A gasp escaped from someone in the gallery. The courtroom froze. He had said it himself. The $80,000 wasn't just a mistake or a financial oversight. It was intentional. Cody's words were clear, calculated, and above all, damning. Robyn, seated just feet away, covered her mouth. Her body trembled. Was she horrified, shocked, or finally realizing he'd dragged them all down with him? The judge's demeanor changed instantly. This wasn't about messy family disagreements anymore. This was now about willful concealment, financial manipulation, and the potential for criminal liability. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution began, we no longer have speculation. We have admission. Christine looked down at her lap, nodding slowly. Janelle stared forward, eyes glassy but resolute. Mary silently whispered something under her breath, though no one could make it out. And Robyn didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply leaned back, as if the ground beneath her had collapsed. Because maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the protection she thought it was. Maybe it was betrayal, retention booster. But the courtroom wasn't done, because, in Part 15, the final chapter, the judge,